I remember getting up and I went to the kitchen to get water and I collapsed. And I'm alone. I'm in the middle of nowhere. And that's when I was on the floor and my heart was pounding so hard that I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And that's when I crawled to my computer. And this is important. I typed, this is how my film begins. I typed how I cured my Lyme disease.
Welcome back to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, and if you're a first-timer here or you've been here before, you know that I coach elite mindset performers, and whether in business, performing arts, athletics, I teach really to connect to who you are and the essence, and that's what helps you to perform well. And I started this podcast, Journey to June, to share the stories, the Soulstigator stories of people that have walked the harder path, that have listened to their essence. And this guest today is no different. Brooke Procida is been in the creative world for over 40 years. And I will share more about her. But today we had a deep conversation about healing and her journey around Lyme disease and how she found solutions, about the process of her healing. And you won't want to miss this, and check it out. Well, hello, Brooke.
Hi, Wendy.
I know. It's so weird. I've been wanting to do this interview or have you on for numerous times, even before I started my podcast. I'm like, she'd be the perfect guest.
Thank you.
For various reasons. So tell us, you just told me where you're at, but tell the audience where you're at and what you're doing right now.
Well, that's so funny. I was like, do I answer that literally? Or I'm in,
I know.
all right,
Because
I have no idea where I'm at or what I'm doing. There you go. I am physically in Kiowa, South Carolina, Kiowa Island. And really, I'm just at a friend's house right now, taking some time off from being in Bluffton, South Carolina. I moved there very recently on a temporary, for like, in my mind, it was temporary, but now I'm we'll get into the reasons why I'm going to end up staying for a little bit. But so I'm here in Kiowa. I did come up to do a sort of 2-week treatment at a healing center, and very fascinatingly got a big no when I finally got there after months of planning and, preliminary appointments and supplement taking and at-home treatments. I was gearing myself up, and when I got there, I got an astounding, resonating no. And then I realized I'd been getting lesser astounding, resonating no's all along the way, from my very first appointment online to the scheduling. They're great. It's just like not for me. And I was sort of ignoring that the entire time. So
the no is not from the place. The no is from your inner.
The no is from my body. I mean, do you know how much it takes for me sometimes to be like, oh, that's a no? Just paint the picture for you.
Okay.
Go.
I think that's a great no. I think that is such a great topic to even address, because through Live Your June, where it's all about your essence and listening. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need to be knocked in the head like 10 times to go, oh no, it's been saying this all along, and we're just pushing against something that's not working.
Correct.
So that's where you're at.
Yes. And just to like bolster that, today I was writing and I was thinking about, and this is how I connect the dots. And then I'm like, you're not connecting the dots. The dots are connected. You're following the connection of the dots, And it's that thing this morning. I was like, I have all this power. I'm going to connect the dots. And I'm like, they're connected already. Just pay attention.
And again, okay, so one is listen and one is pay attention, where you're not forcing something. And I'm working on this at my own level right now in actually doing less to listen. and to pay attention to the next step of my business, of what is good for Josie, whatever that is. So I love like just this conversation right off the bat.
Right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do? What do you do to be more pay attention, to listen more? What are
Generally
you
nothing.
doing?
So that just changed.
And this is why this podcast is going to be so great.
Listen, in my 20s, I did a lot, but I didn't know I was doing a lot because acting and theater and the arts all instill that sort of flow process in you. And, you know, singing in and of itself, like, stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system. There's a flow about everything you do in the arts. And so I grew up practicing all of that all the time. So I was always in the practice of flow. And it just naturally
But not know. Would you say
I didn't
not
know.
knowing?
I didn't know.
Okay, go ahead.
Like when someone asked me, have you ever done yoga at one point in my 20s? I was like, what? No.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I go to a yoga class. I'm like, oh, I've been doing this for 15 years with my acting teachers. So it wasn't like forced self-help. It was just like the joy of doing what I do. So I had been doing it all along. And, you know, so what do I do? Let's stick with your question of like, what do I do to facilitate that or implement that feeling into my life and to stay able to listen and to pay attention? The truth is I get deathly ill or so physically incapacitated that I am shoved into paying attention. Traditionally, that I'm not doing anymore. Hence my like coming here, taking a break. So what do you do? What do I do in the instances where I realize that I've been ignoring signs and intuition? The number one thing I do is surround myself with people who do it so that I'm constantly being influenced properly. And there's an example around me at all times, because monkey see, monkey do, you know, it's like you know, one of my yoga teachers used to say, it's so hilarious and random, but he was so cute. He said, if you want to be a basket weaver, don't keep a monkey as a pet. And it was so cute. But yeah, so I am now surrounding myself with people, places, things, and information that bolster, like you said, less is more, peace, a natural, organic way forward as opposed to forcing, bulldozing. You're very much like me. We're type A's, athletes, aggressors. Literally, my mom's calling in the middle of it. So cute.
I love
She's
it.
adorable. She always calls in the middle of like a podcast or like an important meeting. So yes.
Well, at least she's not walking in the door like mine. Go ahead.
So go. No, go. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. She is not here. So number one, surrounding yourself with the right energy, and then it just infuses, and then it doesn't seem like, how am I going to do self-help today? Because it's your way of life. So the obvious things is your way of being. So the obvious things are yoga and meditation and journaling. Those are all the things that get thrown at us all the time. But I have found those become tasks on a list. They become to-dos, you know, they become, if I don't do yoga, then I feel this way about myself. Like it all can become just part of the stress cycle. All of these things that we implement to help ourselves. I'm going to stop there for now.
I love that, the way you're saying that, because I mean, part of what I do in my company is I think people don't know how to be or what they are in who they are. So it's hard. They're journaling, and then there's all these doing things,
Mm-hmm.
but they really aren't connected to the things that's aligned with them.
Yes.
And I think this goes back to we're aggressive or type A's, and like we want these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have these conversations. We'll like randomly reconnect, and we'll like sit on the phone for 2 hours talking about like our vision and
Right.
how we see the world. And we have this desire, but then where's the like pullback to like reconnect?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see you right now. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, and people don't know your journey, but
Right.
like, um, we'll get into it. But I feel like there's a push and pull, and you're in like this listening. Where am I now, and what does my being need? Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
So tell me, let's just go into the healing part before your career part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that you had Lyme
Mm-hmm.
disease.
Mm-hmm.
You led me into finding someone to help me with mine, which I was unaware for 10 years. So, talk to me about your journey of healing yourself. And I know you're still in
Mm-hmm.
this right now. But when did you go, I can't mess around? Like, I'm really sick? Or did you have it? If I remember right, you've had this all your life.
I had
Like,
symptoms
yeah.
all my life. They worsened. They progressively got worse. They came
Like, what symptoms? Like, how early and what symptoms?
7 years old, swollen knee that looked like a purple grapefruit, and you could like poke at it and it would go, so it was blood filling up in my knee. So I was dragged to oncologists, rheumatologists, like as a 7 year old, all over the East Coast, going to specialists trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And no one knew. And then that would just go away and resurface and go away. I had horrific hives my whole life. As a child, I'd be in the pool at the Bay Club for like 15 hours a day. And obviously, you're going to get hives, but dampness always affected me. So when I'd ski, if I didn't have my mittens pulled all the way up over my jacket, this part of my wrist at the end of the day would be blotchy and red. I was always really affected by damp. And so that was the beginning, just hives, itchiness, swelling, redness, and just my knee joint. The swollen joint is like the telltale sign of Lyme, that and living on Long Island, growing up in the woods. And every day at the end of the day, it was line up, tick check. Who's the only kid that never had a tick? Me. They never found it, So symptomatically, then you go from being 7 to 13 was like prime years. Like everything was good. Then you hit puberty and hormones kick in. And then I had horrific PMS, doubled over, couldn't go to school type thing. Then the sinus infections came, and all of this is inflammation, right? So the PMS, the hormonal imbalance, that surfaced as like that PMS surfaced as inflammation in my body, just that swollen pain all the time. Sinuses began to swell. I began to get infections in there, chronic infections. And that's high school. Then moving from high school into college, it started to become chronic fatigue, where I'd be literally on the couch for a month to 3 months, sometimes just being like, I'm so tired. And all the while I'm like, it's just acting. It's the acting business. It's so hard and it's so taxing. And I started that track in my mind. And
so, any of the listeners, I want you guys to listen in on the symptoms and like how the time frame and how you almost, and I don't want to speak for you, but how you almost believe this is the norm.
yes,
Like, I'm just tired. Exactly. You just said that.
yes,
Like, I'm just tired. This is part of my journey. Like, I'm working hard. I'm just going to interrupt. Like, I just talked to a girlfriend of mine's daughter who's 24, and she went to her gynecologist, and they told her her levels of fertility are so low at her age, and she has zero energy, and they keep putting it into her job. And I'm like, that's like a red flag to me. Forget about fertility. Like, there's something happening in your body. So something's happening in her body, but that's what we're like you. So you're going now, 7 to college.
yeah,
You're still in this state.
yeah. And
Okay.
then I ended up having knee surgery in college because, I was acting in all of these shows and dancing. And so like the costume department would have to build, I had surgery and I had a big, huge brace on my leg. So they're building like building out these like disgusting, ugly polyester skirts for me to wear to cover up my knee brace while I'm on stage. And then I'm pushing myself continually because, you know, you're at a top university where nobody gets in, and I'm with 14 other people that were picked from all over the world. So you're like, well, I can't not finish this, or I can't miss this. And you're a lead in a show, and you're like, oh, I can't drop out of that. So you just keep going and going and pushing and going and pushing and going. And there were points where I would be on stage, you know, and I sing these big belter songs, and I would be belting out a note, and then the lights would black, and then I would black, and I'd be like, and catch myself, go backstage, take a breath, run around for my next entrance. That was my life in college. And so no surprise that I'm on the couch 3 months and then up for 3 months, you know, back and forth of this up, down, up, down. So not only is there something initially creating this in your body, which I had no idea was happening, you're then pushing through it. And, you know, there are different personality types. We can get into that later, but like there's a lot of types like me. And I know this from talking to people and from being in this world for so long. It's a personality type to keep going, to push through, to overdo. And then that creates more severe ups and downs. And then that creates more physical imbalance. And it's a vicious cycle. And, you know, it's not like it's all in your head, just change the way you do things. It's not just that. And it's not all just in your body either. There's a combination of things that you have to look at: the physical potential pathogens, bacteria, whatever it is creating an imbalance, why it's there in the first place. Our bodies are meant to be able to defend. So there are reasons for some people being, you know, able to fight stuff off and get rid of it, and reasons. I don't know all of them, and they're a rabbit hole. This is a rabbit hole discussion. So
Yes, yes, it is. It is.
but
But when did you get diagnosed with a somewhat, so I want to say solution, but like that you weren't crazy?
yeah, so basically there was college. I pushed through that. Then after college, I was in New York City and Los Angeles working as an actor, kept going, kept going, kept going. There was a time when I was on set in LA doing Family Matters. And I remember gripping the makeup chair and like seeing my like literal white knuckles, thinking it was like, you're just going to get through this. You're going to get through this. And I would be dripping with sweat and aching. And it was then one night in LA, that was in my 20s, where I was like spinning in my bed without alcohol. You know, you get all of the symptoms, none of the fun. And I remember just dripping with sweat. And I remember knowing, if I don't leave now, I'm going to die. So I was a recurring role on one of the most popular shows of all time at 22 years old, with auditions and meetings lined up with people and things you wouldn't even believe. And I bought a one-way ticket on JetBlue. And I was like, gotta go. And my manager was like, if you leave now, you're never gonna, you know. And I was like, la 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 la, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, but that's you just, your body just
My
said,
body said I'm done. So I left there, you know, whatever. That continued on, this me trying the Broadway audition, sweating, like my whole, that was for 15 years of me professionally being in this career, cringing and struggling, until finally, you know, I would quit all the time. Actors do it all the time. They're like, this is too hard. I can't do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. And you know, I was like, I'm tired of this. I decided I wanted a master's degree. I was dating a guy in another country, and I was like, I'm getting out of America. I'm moving to England. I'm changing my life. I'm getting a degree in, you know, the business side of the arts so that I know what I'm doing. It was always something else, like, this is going to fix it. This is going to fix it. If I know how to manage my money, it's going to fix it. If I, you know, get my relationship status correct for me, it's going to fix it. Like, it was always something that I needed outside of myself. So I went and I got that degree, and we can get into.
So you are really telling a story in your mind that this is why you were feeling this way. is like more about like not being financially
Yeah.
stable, not having a man, and all these
Being
things.
an
Like even though
actor. Yeah.
yep, even though your body is shutting down.
Yeah, but you don't really, no one teaches you in my world anyway, and what I see in our society, we are not taught to pay attention to the inside. We're taught to pay attention to the outside, and that the outside matters, and the outside dictates success, and the outside dictates our path, and the outside dictates our value. So
Yep.
we're not, and I don't want to say we're not taught. There are some, there's a lot of training in my life. I have great parents, you know, again, rabbit hole, another podcast talking about Catholicism, but I was raised in a church, and I did have the good things that come with religion, which are community around me, and studying the things that across all cultures, religions, spirituality, everything matter, kindness to others. These things were instilled in me. So luckily, I wasn't at a total loss when I started to realize that there were messages. But when it comes to spirituality, I think we are lacking in that department. It's maybe changing, but people are so afraid of what they don't know. And that's why religion is so crazy sometimes. It's because this is what you know, this is how it is, this is the book, and this is the way we do things. So people want to know, they want to be sure. When it comes to things that are not in your control, which is everything except the way you react and the choices you make, people would rather be told what to do and rather take a pill. So circling back, like I was hearing these things, but we're not taught to say, but I'm feeling this way. This doesn't seem right, you know? Some people
Yeah.
are.
Or
We're just told,
you're not given the space
or the
like
tools. Yeah.
yes, yes, the space to explore, to find new
Yeah.
answers. It's just like either you have an answer or you don't have something.
Correct. And you're not
Yeah.
taught that you are your own best friend when it comes
Yeah.
to identifying what you need.
So who opened the door to your to you seeing things a little differently than
Yeah.
what's normally in our society or
You know,
the
looking
norm?
back at the prior, like the previously already connected dots, there were,
We're all back to the
yeah,
connected dots.
there
Go
were
ahead.
many of them along the way. There were many people, there were many moments in my life that I'm so grateful for, you know, that are often disguised as like trouble or trauma, like the college boyfriend who like there was trauma with, but at one moment in my life with him, you know, he taught me to breathe and how to meditate. I was new to LA when I left New York, and I had never even eaten an avocado, and like, I didn't know like anything.
It's
And
important. It's
yeah,
important.
he taught me breathing and visualization, and like he's still one of my best friends. But there were people and things along the way. So medically speaking, after I had moved to London and struggled through my master's degree, which I would love to talk about what I studied there because it's so important to this conversation. But
Okay.
after I finished that, you know, I was just declining, and going back to the symptoms. Then it became shaking and sweating. Then it became brain fog. Then it became not being able to retrieve words or focus or concentrate. And then it became needing to be on crutches because my knees were both so swollen. I was totally falling apart. And I'm thinking, it's stress. It's the damp weather in England. You know, oh, my relationship is going through some troubles. Like, yeah, all those things matter, but what was really going on? So when my then partner and I moved to New York City, having a partner was really helpful in a lot of ways and also very stressful because I was with the wrong, I don't want to say the wrong person. It did what it was supposed to do, but he wasn't my forever. And and being able to share rent with somebody and share the burden of being like, there's something not right. Something is not
Mm.
right. And for all his faults, he never said you're crazy. And he always supported, we're going to figure it out. I went to a doctor in New York City who looked at me. Now, mind you, I'm 38 by this point.
So you've lived with this.
That was about
I can do the
over
math.
30
Yeah,
years.
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he looked at me and he said, oh, you have Lyme disease. This is me. I'm like on his table like this. He's asking me questions and I'm like sliding off sweat on my hand. Like he's just like, you have Lyme. He goes, obviously I'm going to send you upstairs for tests. But so, I got all the tests, and I had Borrelia and Babesia and like a billion other co-infections and all the things that come along with it. And then, as you know, all the other things that get affected after having Lyme for so long, your digestive system, your neurological system, your respiratory system, everything is off after that. So, yeah, so he was the
Yeah,
first
because
one.
your body can't detox anything because it's dealing with Lyme.
Yeah,
So everything just gets backed up
yeah,
in your
yeah,
body, whether it's mold, whether it's mercury, whether it's
right.
whatever.
And the
Go ahead.
interesting thing is, after him, he's a Western medical doctor who does functional stuff. And he said the thing that doctors say when they figure out you have Lyme, which is, I'm going to put you on a course of doxy. And I was like, here's the thing. I've taken so much doxycycline in my life. And like I remember being on a long course of it at college for something. I don't remember what. And I was like, if this is it, if I have Lyme, like that's not going to cut it. And I just instinctively knew. I started doing a ton of research. I was already accidentally seeing an acupuncturist in Brooklyn who also had Lyme. Didn't know that until I told him I had Lyme, and has a whole approach and a whole philosophy. His whole thing is cure the host, get rid of the unwanted guest. And so I'd already been with him, and I decided I was going to do mind over body and acupuncture. It didn't work. so, so, there are things you can do and things that you shouldn't do for me. There are things you can do to help facilitate an easier, more productive, healthier way of life. Whether it gets rid of Lyme entirely, I don't know. It didn't happen for me. And there are things you can do that make it worse on a daily basis, right? So there were times where I was doing the things that made it worse, like overachieving, burning the candle at both ends, having alcohol when I should not have been having alcohol, choosing people that were negative, all the things, you have choices. But it wasn't until I had moved then. Oh, and the husband left in the middle of all of this. So that's it happens a lot with people who are chronically ill. Like partnerships just explode. And I don't want to blame anyone for anything. It's a very difficult thing to partner someone through. So if you're already with the wrong person, it's just going to blow up in your face. So choose wisely, humans. I had moved to Long Island because I had opened Studio PCI, the studio itself.
Where we reconnected.
Yes, there. And I thought I need to be on Long Island around community where I can drive to and from work. I'm not hustling a backpack and a wheelie suitcase and a speaker on my arm through the snow in Manhattan to a rented space, like only to have to Uber home because I can't walk. So I made my life easier, and I moved into this lovely little apartment that I could afford. And life was like, on that level, very good. Studio PCI was a lifesaver. The community of mothers, I cry when I talk about this because I was like really saved by the kids walking through the door and being like, Miss Brooke, how are you today? I'm like, are you feeling better? My mom told, and it was just, that was the single most helpful thing for me. But it was also because I was super proud of myself for following my dreams and for actualizing a vision. All the while not.
So let me just pause there because you're in a place of. I just think it's beautiful what you're. I'm just gonna because I recognize because I was there at the studio, and you had created such a for that our community that normally I don't feel has that. The warmth, the experience in our little nook of a town. And I did feel it. I only came in before you had moved, but it was magical. I mean, my daughter was 5, and that's where she opened her eyes to this
it was
theater world.
The word is
So
correct.
it was beautiful.
It was magical, and it was a chunk of time that began and ended when it should have, and it was not long. But everyone who went through there is special, and it was a very special place.
but that, hold on, I just want to add to the listeners. Like, here you are in a bad space in time in your life, and like things are, you're trying to find some grounding.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like sometimes we forget to I don't want to say serve, but that's what fed you,
Absolutely.
gave you the fuel. It wasn't about your healing yet, as we were not even there yet,
Mm-hmm.
but more about you actually serving and doing your magic for others and giving joy, and that gave back to you with probably not realizing how much it would give back to you.
I didn't
Am I correct?
realize then, and I didn't realize for years thereafter.
Ah,
Yeah, I think
ah,
I'm only realizing now that I've once again moved to a small community.
yes, yes, I agree. But I mean, I think listeners, if you are having a moment of transition, a moment of like some struggle in health and struggle in relationship, sometimes it's like take the step out of your own, like, I got to do this, I got to do this. Maybe go give or create
Yes.
something that like services others, because it does come back in a way that you can't explain.
Yeah, and there is something about the actual physicality, like the physics of giving that changes you on a cell. It actually changes you on a, I mean, there's studies done on it that
Of
the
course,
more
of
you
course.
give, the healthier you are. And that's not to say that we're not paying attention to our own needs, but there is a definite, obvious synergy when you are taking care of yourselves in a way that you can take care of others around you and offer help. There are times where you're going to be flatlined and you're going to rely on everyone else to be there for you. But more often than not, people don't ask when they're there.
No, we do not ask.
Yeah, we don't
We do not know
ask.
have the skill to ask.
And interestingly enough, the way you learn how to ask for help is by giving it and understanding what your giving is doing for somebody else. And it teaches you to be able to be on the receiving end as well when you become a giver.
I love that. So you just said it didn't hit you maybe till this moment of being in a small town.
Mm.
And this is the whole, it's so funny that this is, first of all, number one, would you come back? Because I feel like this health conversation, and then I feel like I want to dive into like your creative world. So would you come back another
Oh,
time? Because
yeah.
I don't want to
Of course,
rush
we
through
can
this.
do
Okay.
part two.
Okay.
We'll probably need like
Let's
part 7.
I feel like this is like, let's just stay in the health realm and what your experience
Yeah.
is, and then we'll go into the other.
Yeah.
But I do, now I lost my train of thought. But the realization of going back in your journey, going back to connect the dots, really does. And this is what I do in my retreat, but it really is magical when you connect the dots and like really reassess what you need in the current moment you're in. And that is what I see you doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
or sharing
Yeah.
with us, the value of that, because just by sharing this moment that fueled you, you're saying, I didn't know that until now I'm in a small town. Or but really going back and learning from your journey is such a yeah, it's a gift.
Well, it's so interesting because the philosophical way of looking at that, and like that theory of like connecting the dots and being on your journey and going back to where you're from, I literally physiologically did that. I drove from South Carolina. Let me just backtrack for a second, then we'll get to the road trip, because I literally drove to LA and there were dots along the way, and I had my purpose in each dot, each city. Got to LA, had a whole experience over there, and I literally just retraced my steps back just drove my car back again. We'll get there in a minute, but I do want to just talk about the moment, because you asked me about the moment where things opened up. So one of them was with Dr. Beer in Manhattan, who said you have Lyme disease. How great for somebody to finally be like, validation, you've got this. Also, I have learned since then that it sometimes becomes, for me, the labels of things can really become problematic. especially in the disease world. What do you have? I have this. What's the cure? Because then you're polarizing it. The words cure and relapse have always freaked me out, because cure is like, I have this and I want to get to be this way. And it negates sometimes the process of healing,
Yes.
and the process is where the health is, and it also does not end. But then you say, oh, well, then you could relapse. Well, the relapse to me is like someone just says, you're good for now, but the other shoe's going to drop. That's a disease, to walk around thinking that. So can't we all just be where we're at in terms of the healing process as well? We go, we ebb and flow. But going back, I then moved to
Well,
Long Island.
that's an awesome point what you're making.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what our society, we're taught. This is what you have. You have COVID. You have this. You have that. And here's the pill.
Yes. Here's the pill. Yeah.
Instead of, we are always healing, and we are always working on the process of getting to a state where we feel good, feel in our body, energetic, vibrant.
Connected.
If you're
Yeah.
not feeling like I just did a detox I told you about, and I'm still in the process, but like, it's all about energy. Like, our body is meant to heal. Our body is meant to have a vibrant energy, and if it's off, those are signs. You had them for 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's a process. Sorry.
Yes.
To interrupt,
No,
but
that's
just,
okay.
Like,
And just to, piggyback on that, it's often not, listen, I love a good Advil. Pills work. You know what I mean? Like, I have to have Advil sometimes. It's like, that's like my night out. I'm like, I think I'm going to take some Advil. But some things work. Like, some people do their Myers cocktail, their vitamin drip, and it works. And it's not that these things don't work. What I have found, like, let's talk about it in terms of diet. Oftentimes it's not like the diet or the supplement or the workout routine. It's the commitment to yourself that actually instills change and changes the energy of things. So sometimes just that commitment just starts the healing process. But going back, because I do want to tell you this, there was a moment, and I think everyone who gets deathly ill or has a rock bottom, I think everyone who chooses to make the best of what they've got and find the answers that aren't being handed to them has that moment. Oprah calls it the aha moment, and it's like when the light comes beaming through, and oftentimes we are at our absolute most demolished worst, not just personally, but globally. Look what just happened.
Hello?
Right?
Yeah.
So we are just microcosms of what's happening out there. And when I was living in New York, running the studio, there was a time I used to get sick, which is like the syndrome, which I actually have right now. And I used to be able to deal with it very effectively with this, and this. Cut out sugar, take the Solar Ray Candida Cleanse caps, and, walk and da-da-da-da. And I had this system. It had been 40 days, and I was still on my couch, and every single thing in my body hurt. I had pain all up and down. I was sweating. I couldn't even get up to walk to the kitchen to get water. And I was like, I need a live-in nurse, And I remember getting up, and I went to the kitchen to get water, and I collapsed. And I'm alone, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, Huntington Bay. It's not the middle of nowhere, but, by myself. And that's when I was on the floor, and my heart was pounding so hard that I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and my throat dried up completely. And that's when I crawled to my computer. And this is important. I typed, this is how my film begins. I typed how I cured. That word now for me is interesting, but at that point in time, I was still using it. How I cured my Lyme disease. I didn't say how to treat Lyme disease. What do I do if I have Lyme disease? I get this shit out of my body entirely. Yep. So from there, a TED talk came up of Ben Aarons, who's now a friend of mine. I don't know if you ever met Ben at the center, but
No.
One Small Breath. You can check him out. It's on YouTube. But his whole thing was he was paralyzed and he was a surfer and he was bedridden for 3 years and had all these studies done on his brain. And he was just going downhill fast. And he couldn't do anything but take a deep breath every day. And that one small breath was where he started. And then he put his wetsuit out in front of him and visualized. And then life progressed. But at one point, he said, and it wasn't until I met this doctor that I saw my health begin to turn around. And it's so funny because, you know, Ben's adorable. And I only watched the thing because he was cute. I was like, oh, this guy's hot. Let me...
Of course, Brooke.
Right. And so, hey, whatever, God knows how to talk to me. So, and then from there, it said that he was living in Spain. So in my mind, I'm like, do I have a passport and a bathing suit? And like, I'm packing, you know, because I'm going to Spain to find that doctor because I was at my near death.
Yeah.
And then I click here to find the doctor. And it said, visit our offices in Huntington, New York. And so for people listening,
I get chills because it is crazy.
I was 1.8 miles from the center at 39 years old on the floor after 32 years of struggle and
crazy.
Doctors. And so then I immediately booked in there. I went, I had no trepidation, no hesitation. You know, a lot of people will call me now and they're like, but what about this? And but what about that? And I'm scared of this. And I was like, here's my vein. Give me all the IVs. I don't care what's in the bag. Fix me. Because I had full trust because I was flatlined and I was completely surrendered.
Yep. Well, I mean, so tell me because I know what I went through. I went to the same place as well for Lyme because of you, because I was going for answers for years and I wasn't in the state you were in, but something inside me, I'm like, this is not right. I'm gaining weight. I have no energy. And you happen to be someone, a client a patient, and also my sister-in-law. And then I explored it as well. But tell me how do you describe that clinic and how you healed, and what was the change in you as you started to go through this process, which is forever, as you said?
So this can be another podcast. So I'm going to keep it really simple with bullet points.
Perfect.
What I have learned from all of the many places and people that I've been to is that when you're dealing with a center, there's a trickle down effect, just like in a corporation or in a cast with the director. When I sat with Dr. Schultz, it was like I was reconnecting with a person that I'd met long ago. I felt like he could just walk into my family's home and sit down and have dinner. He saw me, he heard me, he had nothing to prove, no ego at all whatsoever. So that was the initial thing. And look, other people go and they're like, that was so weird. This is so weird, you know? So
I have a few.
Yeah.
I know a few.
Yes. And that's cool. Like that's people's real experience. Just so happened that this is what happened for me. That's timing. That's everything that's happened in my life up to that point and everything that's happened in his life up to that point and the moment we merge. So there's a alchemy there, and it takes what it takes to get there. You know, I was in complete surrender at that point. So, and it wasn't fear. There's a difference between being like defeated and being desperate and being like, I'll do anything, and being like, okay, this feels right, you know?
Yeah. And I think, again, you're open. It's just like your paths has merged. And not everybody, it's funny because when you believe a certain thing, a certain way of healing, you see the possibility in the unknown, in the physical, the medical world that has been taught us to find a fix.
Yeah.
But there's other solutions. And when you want to throw that on everybody,
Yeah.
like I want to be like, oh my God,
Right.
like there's healing, like people can heal, but it's not for everybody because it's not in their being.
Right.
So it
Yet.
won't actually work.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yet.
you have to actually align believing that all the process that he gave you was a way to heal and release all the crap that's inside of you.
And I will say the reason I not just believed that, but knew it is because when I had collapsed and thought I was going to die, I helped myself by Googling. I said, I need to help myself now or I'm never going to. I didn't just submit and say, that's it, I'm done. I said, what am I going to do here? And then I found Ben. I Facebooked, messaged him, and I was like, can I talk to you? I did my research and he called me right back. I felt very cared for from the moment I fell to the floor. So to go back to what happened there, I just want a bullet point for people listening. Like everyone's like, what they do? What do you have done? What are you taking? What are you doing? The reason it works is because it's an individualized approach and it's backed by energetic science. So everything is based in energy there. Everything's tested for your energy and your process and where you're at. And so to be specific, if that's really vague and weird for people, is for me, my blood revealed that I needed a certain amount of detox treatments to get my body to a place where it could handle treatment. That also for me entailed some energy balancing. So when your energy's off, you're not going to take a treatment. That's what's happening to me now. And that's what happened up at that place. So I'm working on my energy now first and like relaxing and getting to a better, which I have to say I can do because I'm not highly symptomatic. When you become highly symptomatic and your shit flares up, it's like, it's very hard to be like, I'm just going to peace out and get my nervous system in control. And so if you're not already trained to be present with your body and to allow your body to guide you, fight or flight will take over and it will steer the ship. So I had 8 detox treatments, 3 antimicrobials, which is what actually goes in and kills the Lyme and the bacteria. And then I had IV lipids after, which goes in and repairs the cell because all of this is difficult for your body to go through. And I had several other like ancillary treatments that supported my process. Injections in my gut for inflammation in my pelvis that I didn't even know I had, magnet therapy, ozone therapy, biocharger, like all of this frequency therapy, and a lot of supplementation. There was still work for me to do thereafter. I was told, and I said, okay, thanks. My pocketbook is empty and I am getting in my car to go get my life back. And so that's when I was like, I stayed at the studio for another 6 months to wind it down and to give everybody notice of what was happening. Because when you have had an experience for 32 years and suddenly you don't, this is interesting, and we can pick this back up on our next podcast, but
Perfect.
I didn't have Lyme anymore. So people think that's impossible because you're told, well, it's not, you can't get rid of it. And it's like, maybe in the movie that you're starring in, that's what is happening. But I have another script. I have a different cast of characters. I have CGI. It's like I can do magic. So it's like, I'm not in this weird film that you're in. I'm in a magical movie, And so I was so excited that I got my life back and I had this opportunity. I was like, I better get in the damn car right now and drive back to LA so that I can pursue this thing that I had to quit, that I wasn't allowed to be in anymore because I couldn't participate. And then I got there and a pandemic hit.
Lots of teachings. Okay. And this goes back to the process because I'm hearing you say, oh, yeah, I just got my life back. I'm going to go back to LA, pandemic, stressors. Have we really healed myself? I thought I was. And now you're in where you are now.
Yeah, all I did was get rid of Lyme. I didn't do the emotional, spiritual work. I didn't do the immune system rebuilding. I didn't look further to see that mold might have been the cause of my being able to express the Lyme disease.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's yeah.
So when where you are right now and you think of yourself at 7 and the journey you took,
Mm.
what advice would you give yourself back then? What would you have told yourself? What would you tell your mom to open your eyes to, or
Mm.
maybe doctor? Like, what? Now you have learned this 40-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
What? Just to top off this part 1 of 7. Just joking. I forget it. I'm doing a podcast this year, and it's going to be with Brooke all year long.
The Brooke series.
God. So what would you? Yeah, like when you really like think back, like if someone's listening and curious about what you're saying, me too, me too. I felt that. I feel
Mm.
this. What advice?
I almost don't want to speak because that's where the answer is.
I love that. I love that. And it's so funny you said that. I just heard. Isn't it funny? As a parent, you're not a parent, but as a parent, I just heard Annette Bening saying, someone had asked like, "What's parenting advice?" And she's like, hmm. Literally, she was like, and she's like, Drew Barrymore was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, you know,
Mm. That's exactly.
because I don't have the answer,
Yeah.
and that is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like your answer is not everybody's answer, and you have to find your own answer
In the quiet.
in the quiet.
I gotta say something to end.
Sure.
When I imagine my own podcast, and when I tell because I will be doing one, and when I tell the story of Limelight Journey, which we'll get into the next time, the road trip in the movie, there is a big part that JetBlue plays in it, because it was when I was in the bed at my aunt's house, and I was like, I gotta go home. And I remember calling the JetBlue rep, and like the phone call itself was very difficult for me to make. This is when you didn't type shit online. You were like, hi, I'd like a ticket, And so it's part of my story that I tell. It's part of the movie. It's part of the play that's happening. And I just got a JetBlue notification right now as we're speaking. Out of nowhere. Let's see what they say, because I just got a notification. So I always say that they're going to sponsor me. So maybe they'll.
There you go.
Okay.
It might be the JetBlue sponsor for our podcast for future 2024.
For the journey, because JetBlue, they're the journey makers.
And we're on
and
Journey
scene.
to June. And yes, Journey to June, JetBlue, Brooke Procida telling the story. I love it. We didn't even get into the vagus nerve, which is a whole cat and
I mean, talking about fight or flight, which is the whole demon behind all of this stuff, and countering that with your rest and digest, your parasympathetic nervous system, and the fact that singing actually stimulates your vagus system, which is in charge of your parasympathetic nervous system, is quite amazing to me. And it comes from, just to quickly end on this, chanting, the Om, all of that stuff is to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is in charge of your brain gut connection. So maybe next time you're feeling stressed and confused, just hum. You don't have to sing. And then you add community singing all together, like theater, church, all those things, and it lifts you up. There really is merit to it. So
there is. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, my friend's mom has dementia, and she's in a home, and she would always hum, and you could see the difference in her body, the shift in the safety of just
incredible.
Humming. Yeah. So yes, the vibrational energy of music, and I'm not in tune like you are, but I know the difference.
Oh yeah.
Even just as an athlete, I used to do this. It was called heart math.
Yes,
and you had to get in the zone, and how I couldn't get it. The Asian girls would get in 2 seconds in the zone of green, and I could not get there. I was like, I do yoga. And
Mm.
the minute my friend chanted, I like
Oh,
literally felt a shift in my being. And then I could reenact it while I was putting. It was crazy.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Well, Brooke, you're
Yeah.
coming
I'm
back.
coming back.
And any last word or words around your health journey to this point before we get off
Well, just
sign off?
that where I'm at now, I was jumping back into another treatment that is similar to innovative medicine in that, it's a 2 week or 3 week thing at first. You jump in, there's a lot of IV therapy, it's very aggressive. And so I thought, oh, I'll just do that again. And then when I got all these red flags along, well, they were like kind of pink. Then like the screaming red flags all happened in one day. And by the time they'd put me on the treadmill to do this thing where I'm not even like walking, like I'm so out of, I don't say I'm out of shape, but I'm struggling. And they put a oxygen mask on you. I was ready to like vomit in it. And I was like, this can't actually be healthy. So I finally, for me, so I finally paid attention. And so it will be interesting the next time we speak to see where I'm at, because this is a new way for me to be um, witnessing my own journey, and a new way for me to be asking for help, a new way for me to be showing up, which is slowly, less is more, faith, community, and still commitment, commitment to a daily practice. And I don't want to, I have committed to doing my best to witness when I say, and it's just so hard. It's so hard. It's just so hard. Words mean so much. So, and they do so much for us vibrationally and intentionally, that I am hoping now that I can stick with all of those things. And I want to thank you for inviting me to speak and to connect with you, because the second my intention shifted to, this is the world I want to live in, look what happened. Oh, Wendy reaches out and I get to help other people with my story and witness you doing wonderful things, and everything lifts the second you intentionalize positivity and wellness and really, really feel it. Everything around you will shift and move in to support that change.
I love that. I love that. Well, I will be calling you and we will set up again. I just love, and I hope you guys enjoyed Brooke's first episode all around healing. And we'll put in some links of things you shared, and
Mm-hmm.
you're also just quickly share your documentary that you did.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I filmed a documentary driving across country the first time from South Carolina to Los Angeles. And the point of it was to stop in 7 different states along the way and interview, meet with, connect with people who had been through chronic illness or a severe trauma of some sort, and see what they did to get through it, and to interview other experts and doctors along the way. We did all of that. I haven't produced anything because I ended up in Los Angeles exhausted and burnt out with 50 hours of footage for an art form that I know nothing about, and also that I finally realized I don't really connect with. So I have all of
Well,
this information
it's a
and footage.
journey.
Yeah.
I
And
love
so it
it.
has since gone from a doc to a series to a feature film so now I never stopped. That's the thing. I let it evolve. And
Yes.
in my drive back, I am now at a place where this is in a new form. It is not a common form. It's a hybrid of sorts, and we can talk about that next time, but it's Limelight Journey. And if people want to check out what I did so far, it's at
I love it.
limelightjourney.org. And Studio PCI is at studiopci.com if people just want to see what I've been up to.
So, listeners, will check out the links that we share around healing, but tune in next time when we have her speaking about her creative journey of many magical things you've done so far, and I actually want to pick your brain around your childhood as a
Creative. Mm-hmm.
performer,
Mm-hmm.
creator,
Mm-hmm.
and also how you perceive children. So that's to come,
That is a
children
big part
in
of my
this
life.
arena.
Yeah, a big part
Yes.
of my life and
Cool.
my studies. So yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
Wendy. Thanks
Thanks.
everybody
Bye,
for
hon.
listening to me.
Bye
Bye.
bye.